Hello everyone, Jason with Timber Falls. Today we're going to be learning how to take a simple image and turning that into a 3D relief. I'm using SpongeBob characters. Cartoon characters are easy to use. They have simple colors and simple drawings, and so learning how to make them into 3D objects is a good way to start. I've tried some more complicated photos, and the process is a lot harder. So when first starting out and learning how to turn pictures into 3D, it's easier to start out with a simple picture or photo. So today we're going to be making Miss Puff from SpongeBob. Okay, we're using Maker Plus, CARVECO Maker Plus. I just updated to the latest version. We're going to start with a new model. I'm going to use a pretty large model, 20 inches by 20 inches. I do have the resolution turned down to about 1040 by 1040. The reason for this is the less resolution you use, the less processing power it takes to render the image. You can put it all the way up if you have a really powerful computer. It just goes much faster if you don't set the resolution all the way up. We're using inches as units. The reference point is the bottom left. And for all my models, I usually reference the Z on top of the material. But for making models, that's really not that important. Okay, we open our model up, and the first thing we're going to do is bring in the bitmap or picture or image that we plan to make into 3D. Alright, we select Miss Puff and the scaling is set to fit. Alright, when we open that up, it brings us in on both the 2D and the 3D image. Alright, there we go. I like to look at it in the 2D and have my vector in the 3D. Okay, before we can make vectors, we're going to have to reduce some of the colors. As you can see down here at the bottom, all of these blocks down here represent all of the colors that are in this picture. If we click on our bitmap to vector tool, we can reduce the amount of colors that is in the bitmap by clicking the reduce colors button. As you can see, the current number of colors in that image was 255, and when we reduced it, it starts out with 32. This is the default setting that it's going to bring down to in the beginning, so that's what you'll begin to start with, is 32 colors. Now we actually want to bring that down even more. The less colors you use, the better. So we're going to start moving this slider bar down, and the main thing that we're looking for is major changes in the photo. So if we move it down and we don't really see a whole lot change, right here at 28 colors, the colors in the lips changed, which is okay. That's not super major. Right here at 27 colors, it blended the hair and the outline of the hair, which the hair we generally want to be all one object, so that will be okay. We're going to keep coming down. Okay, now at 16, these two objects change to the same color and blended together, which we don't want. So we're going to have to go back up right there at 17 colors. And at 17 colors is keeps those two items separated. So we're just going to apply that, and these are the 17 colors that we'll start with. Now we're going to reduce these colors even more. If you zoom in on the colors, you can actually see that, like, this black line is faded in with some gray and a little darker brown and this lighter beige color, and these colors came in when the image was imported. And the way that you connect these colors or blend them together is down here at the bottom. So if we click on the black image, or these squares down here, you can see that this first little square changes color, and up here our primary color changes color. And that's because when you click on it, you're selecting the primary color in this picture. Now what we want to do is we want to have our primary color. We're going to work through these. We're going to start with black, and if we zoom in on some black, we can see that it's mixed in with this gray, which is this gray right here. So if I hold the control button and I right click the gray, the black will link with the gray or take that color over. And you can see in the picture that when I click this, the gray becomes black, and that's because it's linked under the color black. You can use this little circular 8 looking symbol right here in the corner. It does the same thing, and it just links whatever is in the primary and secondary color box. The box on the back side here is your secondary color. So we blended those together. Now if we zoom out a little bit more, let's get our zoom. We can probably blend a few more of these together. Now these two reds I think are the red in the shoe and the red in the skirt, so we'll leave those. This yellow, we'll see if we can get this other yellow, and those linked together. I didn't see anything change, so that's going to be fine. This brown looks like the brown here in the spots. I don't think there's going to be anything to connect there. The blue, there's another blue here. We connect those two. Yeah, I didn't see anything there. I don't think we actually made the connection here. Yeah, okay. So we got two kind of light colored blues. We connect those. Okay. If you see, when we connected these two, this detail went away in the fins, and we didn't really want that, so we had to unconnect those. You simply just right click and connect it. Let's try to connect some of this white with some of these off colors. And that helps us get rid of a lot of those errant colors that are in the edges. Okay, now we're ready to start making our vectors. So we're going to start with the black. We click black, and we're going to just create the vector. We click over here to our 3D view, click show vectors. We can see that it's given us some of the stuff that we need, but not everything. Now a little trick is to grab this 3D view tab and just pull it out here somewhere, and this will separate the 3D and 2D so that you can look at them at the same time. Let's move this over here. Okay, so we started with the black. We need the dark red of the shoe, so let's go ahead and get the dark red. We click the dark red and create vectors. We need that fin color. That was this one that was way out at the edge. So we're going to create those vectors. We need this yellow of the hair, which for some reason did not link. That yellow, we're going to do that. Okay. And we're going to create that vector. And then the brown spots. I think that got everything. And then to put these back together, you just grab this little tab and set it right there next to it, and that'll bring it back. Okay, now we have all of our vectors. And we look over here and we've got a pretty good vector reproduction of Miss Puff here. Now before we start making everything a 3D, we need to clean this model up a little bit. If you zoom in here, you can see a bunch of these little circles that got imported. These circles usually represent a color or something that we weren't able to blend. Now you could just highlight these and press delete and get rid of them. But I'll show you another little trick, and that is to use the Vector Doctor. And Vector Doctor has these buttons in the middle here, and this one is closed vectors smaller than, and if we enter what we have here is 0.01. So if I click that, it's going to highlight all the little circles that were smaller than 0.01. So then we just need to press delete and it get rid and they're all gone. Okay, that's a neat little trick to clean things up. And if you have some left over, you can just make that number larger and it will get rid of them. Okay, the next step is going to be to connect the outer profile line all the way around this object. I'm going to connect the boots, the hair, and the hat to this line so that we have a continuous outline around the entire object. Now we're going to do this with a little bit of node editing. I'm going to show you how to do this fairly quickly. If you click node editor, like what we're going to want to do is connect these 2 points to this top of this boot. So if you hover over one of these nodes and you press C for cut, you can cut the vector, or cut that in half. And I went to these two and that cut off this bottom vector. We're just going to delete it. Now I'm going to connect those two to this line. Another button, you can press I for insert, and that will insert a vector. Since we want this to come down and connect to that vector, I'm going to press C for cut and cut that vector, and we're going to delete that out. Now we just want to connect these up. We're going to use our Create Polyline tool. And you just want to make sure that add to existing line is checkboxed, and that will connect those lines like that. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Go to the node editor, and since there aren't any nodes down here, we're going to add them. So I'll press I to insert, and then let's make cuts. We press C for cut, and I'm just hovering over those nodes when I press C. We're going to delete those out of the way, and then we're going to just connect our nodes, our lines. There we go. Okay. See, these two lines don't exactly meet, don't look the same over here. So we may change that too. But let's go ahead and make that connection. Let's see. Turn the node editor. Go through the node editing process really quickly. Pressing I to insert some nodes. And then C to cut those nodes. Delete gets rid of them. C for cut. C for cut. Delete. And if you mess up, you can just undo it. And then we create our polygons. You know that it's reached the end when it makes that little bullseye. That's how you know that you're there. Now, this is different than this over here, and we'll probably cut these to make them the same as this. Let's see, get our node editor, and we're going to insert a couple of nodes here, and then cut them. Okay. And then let's fix this. We'll just insert a node here, 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 and here. And just go along and cut those nodes. And remove the old stuff away. Now we're going to connect those two to what you can do is, if it's going to be a closed loop, like this is a closed loop up here, what you can do is right click this and say close vector with a smooth curve, and that's going to give you that curve at the bottom. And then these wings that come out from the vectors adjust the actual shape, so you can play with the shape a little bit to get the desired look. Close vectors with a smooth curve. Go to our node editor, and we're just going to play with that shape a little bit. Now this one over here, You can also move them around by highlighting a bunch of nodes, drag and drop. I would almost say this whole thing can move over some. It's a little better. I might could clean this up just a bit. Okay. Pretty happy with that. Okay. Now we just need to do the same thing with the hair. So we'll go up here and node edit, and we're gonna C for cut, delete, highlight this. We need to insert a few nodes and cut that space out. And then let's just make a quick join. Alright. Get that hat in a minute. Well, we got some overlapping vectors here, but that's going to be okay. We're not really going to worry about that because all those shapes are going to blend together when we edit them. So let's go to our node editor. We're going to insert here. Now let's just cut here. Cut the one we inserted. I can delete this. Then insert here. Let's insert way up here. Cut that one. Let's see, let's cut that one. Delete that span. And we'll just connect these vectors. Like so. And our outline's going all the way around, all but this hat. So let's come down here and do the hat. So we'll let's go ahead and insert. Cut. Insert cut. Delete. Alright. And one more. Bear with me, guys. We're working through it. This is one of the reasons why this is kind of hard to do, or people say it's hard to do. It's just a lot of work. Getting all these vectors clean to do it this way, and to making your project look good. But this is not a, once you get used to cutting and inserting vectors, it moves along pretty quickly, and this is not at all very hard to do. We're going to insert and cut, insert and cut. We'll delete that section. And so we're almost there. Let's see, connect. All right. Okay, so we have our outline. Now we are ready to start giving it some dimension. The first thing I like to do is we're going to open up our shape editor here, and on a flat plane we're going to give the entire model a base to sit on, and I do that by just starting with a 1/4 inch base. We're on add, so it adds the material. If we zoom in here, you can see that it's raised up to our entire model 0.25. So we hit apply, and now we're going to give the rest of the model some body. So if we click round up here, you can see that it's already given us some shape. Because we still have the 0.25 starting height, it's trying to add another 0.25. You can delete that. You probably could have just started with this way, but I like adding the layers on, because each layer you can change the geometry of how much you're adding. So by starting with a 0.25 flat layer and then adding your additional layers on top of that, you start building up a more three-dimensional object with the layers, because that's what actually gives it the depth. Now, to actually see, it's kind of hard to see. If you turn off the visible vectors, it's a little easier to see what your shape's going to look like. And this is not a bad shape. I mean, we can give it a little more body. You could give it a lot of body. So you just kind of want to play around with what you feel like is a pretty acceptable shape, pretty happy shape. Now we are going to give it some body here, but we're not going to give it too much, because again we're going to be layering on top of this. So I kind of like that. So we hit apply. Now let's get our vectors back in and get the frame centered again. Alright, now let's if we go, we had a bunch of these little closed vectors, and if you, let's just highlight these. There's a bunch. Let's see, these on the fins were these little closed loops. We're going to go ahead and do around the eyes. The lips. And then we hit round. Let me back up. Let's see. Now, what this is going to do is going to add this graphic, or this detail as a graphic. And you can do this raised or lowered depending on the effect. If you just pull this into the negative, you can make it lowered. So depending on whatever your desired effect is going to be, you can make that look that way. Now for this, we're gonna max it all the way up, because I'm trying to give the max amount of height to those features. So if we hit apply and we click off of it, let's see here. Let's turn off the vectors. So you can see that we're starting to apply some of those trace effects that are going to give our model some texture. Okay. So we're just going to continue on. We're going to go back to that outside line, but this time we're going to select all of these all of the stuff in here. And let's go back to our editor. And now we're going to add all of that detail. We're going to get the hair. Oh yeah. Let's not do this part of the hat yet. Okay. See, and it's just making a nice bead-like feature on all that. And we're going to max that out. Okay. Now, if the effect wasn't strong enough or you want to add more to it, you can always go back and do a second layer. Like, say we wanted to just do that again, we could always, go back and highlight all those things again. So, I mean, we could go back to our outline. Let's see here. I don't want to do the circles. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Let's so if we would just wanted to add a second layer in here, make sure I got all these things clicked. You don't want to add detail where you don't want it. The legs. And we're kind of doing the feet too. Okay. So we can add some more there. And again, if we turn off our, we're really starting to get somewhere. Okay. Let's turn these back on. Alright, so we're going to do, let's get the little circles here. Now for these, I'm actually going to do, instead of raised bumps, I want to do like little indentions. Like these are going to be, so you just pull this bar down into the negative angle. Alternatively, you could hit the subtract button, it'll do the same thing. But just pressing down will make these recessed. And we're just going to do that. And then we have the hair over here. And this part of the hair here. Let's just add some depth to that. And then the two eyeballs, let's make those pretty pronounced. And then a little trick with the eyes is you do this outer circle here, but you do it the slight negative, and that gives those eyes kind of that sunken look. I think that looks pretty good. We can even go maybe a little more. Okay. And all right. Probably let's get center this back. She really needs some more in the lips. Go back to our editor. We're going to add some more to that. And then I also think if we do right inside this, we can give her some puffy lips. So let's apply that. The little hat up here on the inside, if we click the inside, if we do the square, you can do different geometric shapes. Little bag, the square works pretty good, or hat. And you could do it either way. Actually, sticking out may look better. And it's all preference. And guys, that's looking pretty good. You know, we can always give the fins a little dimension. Give her hands some shape. And maybe even the tops of these bows. And there we have it. And if you want to see without the I mean, it's not a bad little relief. Now, if let's center it back. We're going to scale this object. Right now it's at 2 inches. And I'm just going to lower it down to 1.75. We're going to emboss 0.05. Let me reset this. 1.75 and hit apply. Now, the reason for all of this is going to help define all of the edges of the line, and then when we hit the smoothing tool, so the last step is to smooth the entire relief, and depending on the strength you use, I mean it will really soften it out. But you can use this to help blend some of the roughness. Like, it smooths all of this out. And it also smooths the transition between the different features to give it a more fluent look. You just play around with it and set it how you want. Okay. And then if you want to save this model to import into another scene or something, you hit the create triangle mesh. I like to have a lot of zeros, the tolerance really small. I have it set to close with a flat plane. If you leave it open mesh, the back of the model will be open. If you click this, it will close it with the flat plane when you import it. And you can save it either way. We hit create and it creates our 3D model. And then we would just simply save that. And there's Miss Puff. You can save it as different kinds. Here is STL. CARVECO file. So an OBJ. You can have different formats. I prefer this ASCII STL. It's what a lot of the other programs can use, because you can take this model and import it into, say, Blender or something else and add a bunch of detail. That's actually how the more complicated photos, stuff that you just can't get with this program, the way to do it is you do a base model with CARVECO, and then you would import this into Blender, and then using the existing 3D model you would use different effects in Blender to add different effects for this model. So that's our Mrs. Puff. If you like this content, I plan to make more videos. Press the subscribe, the like, and ring the bell, and get notified when I post more. I'm all self-taught, and I try to make this as simple as possible. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. I try to answer everything as quickly as possible, and you can always find more or reach me at my website, timberfalls.us. Have a good one, guys. Thanks.